But you've been doing a lot of virtual classes, no?
Yeah, in the past like two months it's been going on.
Okay. And then, so what's the difference between someone doing a virtual class with a trainer like you and just watching like a YouTube video and then working out?
No difference. Only that I call out their names, and also it becomes a little more interactive that way.
But you can correct them also, right?
Yeah, I feel like I was
Form-wise.
say it's definitely more like I did 1-2 Zoom charity classes. I'm not doing like paid sessions on Zoom right now, but I just found it like more interactive, and then your clients are interacting with each other, and you can correct forms, things like that, scale it according to someone, like if someone had a shoulder injury so couldn't do something, so give them an alternative for it, things like that.
Right. But is it limiting in a way because you don't have the equipment? Do you have to then change how you're taking these classes, or what kind of exercises you're doing with your clients?
Yeah. So definitely, I feel the things that you do gets limited, especially like for example, upper body. Like it's so difficult to do like an upper body, a big routine without dumbbells. But yeah, I guess like we're just being innovative and using combination, tempo, different techniques to like have that the same, at least try to mimic that kind of impact that we would with dumbbells.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Or like specify beforehand, what equipment you want, make sure everyone has that, like a chair, simple things at home also I feel make a big difference.
Yeah.
Also, I've just realized that this is the fittest panel of guests I've had on my
Ever?
podcast.
You ever had?
Ever had. And also, this is the first panel where I'm the least fit person on the podcast. But in order to give this episode credibility and not have the audience think that you guys are just good looking people, tell us a little bit about your background and what each of you has been doing in the fitness industry. Mr. You want to go first? Okay, Dhruv.
Yeah.
No, whatever. Okay.
That's okay. This is 4 of us. This is not an Arnab Goswami show. Everybody will get a chance to talk. Go on, Dhruv.
So my background, basically, I've actually studied my hotel management. I graduated from Hotel Management Institute in Bangalore, but because of passion and things like that, I got in the fitness industry, and so I started off doing martial arts. Of course, inspired by Bruce Lee.
Yeah, you tried that one inch punch on me once.
Yeah.
You almost.
Oh, I did on you.
Yeah, you almost. I remember we met once, and he's just like, "Come here. I want to like try this 1 inch punch on you." And I'm like, "What is the 1 inch?" I had not heard of the 1 inch punch then. And then see, here's where Dhruv made a mistake. He told me what would happen to me before he did it, and I'm like, "Okay, no, it's okay. Don't you oversold it." I don't want to get injured. Yeah,
I should have just done it directly.
Yeah.
Did you go like, don't tell me, just show me, and then he went like.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Now you're not telling the story correctly. It probably went.
No. It's that I remember he spoke to me. He spoke to me about it, and then he did that. I don't know. He do something like this, and then he came close to me, and I was just like, "Okay, this is too intimate, bro. We're just getting to know each other." But I remember that. Yeah. Go on, tell me. Martial arts.
So martial arts, it's basically so I used to travel to Bombay on weekends to learn. So this guy is trained under one of Bruce Lee's students.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's where I started off. And then, of course, I did my fitness courses. My main fitness course is ACSM. So that's American Council of Sports Medicine.
Okay.
And so that, along with calisthenics. So these 3 things are my main forte, and that's what I teach also. But it depends, again, from person to person, what they want to learn, what are their requirements, what are their goals.
So do you teach like at a gym, or like do you freelance as a personal trainer?
So right now I am freelancing. Okay. I used to be with one of the gyms before. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Martial artist, so don't mess with Dhruv if you see him, guys. He just needs 1 inch. That's it.
No, I'm the calmest martial artist.
Yeah, but that's also the thing with martial arts, right? I know another good comedian friend of mine from Australia who's done Aikido, and he's like, I don't want to fight, and I'm just like, and we're hanging out at pubs after gigs, and can you beat this guy up? Can you beat that guy up? And he's, as it is, he's a Irish bloke, you know, like 6'2", looks like he's from Game of Thrones. And I'm just like, just go beat someone up. No, it's fun. I don't know if you guys, this happens to you where I always get excited when I hang out with people who can fight. But like fight as in like technique, okay? Not that scratchy bullshit. So, and I want to like this happens to me, right? When I hang out with a lot of people, they'll be like, hey, tell us a joke, make us laugh all the time. Yeah? And I oblige, okay? I made you guys also laugh now in the last like couple of days. Like, I do it. But when I tell my friends who know how to fight to kick someone's ass, they don't do it. And apparently the whole at the core of martial arts, the thing is you train so that you don't have to fight.
Exactly.
That's what he said.
It basically channelizes all your energy, all your anger. And basically when you start off, you're like, okay, you know, all cocky, you want to try this, you want to try that. But as you progress towards it, you just realize that
you become a calmer person, that you don't need to
You're so
fight.
confident. Yeah, you're so calmer.
You learn a lot of laws
don't need
and
to do
rules also, where you kind of
everything.
Yeah, where you're not like attacking as much as you're defending and throwing the other person off.
Right.
It's not.
So the thing that I do,
martial arts, but a bit of
Yeah.
Muay Thai and kickboxing, boxing. So again, it's like
that
you know
I've
how to
learned-
throw a punch.
the thing that I've learned is basically an offensive martial art.
Okay.
So, the main philosophy is that if you want to fight, you go all out, or you just don't do it at all.
Oh, so with
You know,
you,
so
it's
we
a
have
fight to
things
the
like-
death, huh?
Yeah, so we have things like eye jabbing and kicking the groin and things like that. So it's better not to just get involved.
Yeah.
So
After
sorry,
that,
Monica.
I started kickboxing with the same trainer that Mishti used to train under.
He's a boss.
Yeah.
Kamal, no? Is it?
Kamal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, to
I
add
follow him on
what
Instagram.
he said, like I'm also a very like aggressive and impulsive person, and you think that those are the skills required for combat sports, but you know, in the process of learning, you become so calm. You know, because when you have to punch, you're not throwing around just like that. You know, you're very focused as to where your punch is landing and what you're going to do. So, you know, even though it appears to be a very aggressive sport, it leaves you feeling much more calm.
I remember my first day of college, like we were like, you know, said we had to like, I don't know, I was doing BMS, so we had some funny foundation course or something where our teacher was like, oh, come and talk about a flaw and how you handle it. So I said, I get angry very quickly and I go for boxing to channelize that there so that I don't bring it on other people. And I feel it's honestly, like Monica said, you know, you have to be so focused while you're doing it. You can't be like a blind ape going in and punching. It's very technical, and I feel like it's a good release of energy.
I think it's really cool how knowing how to fight makes you not want to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
cool.
actually the people who don't know how to fight are always aggro and they're like, tu janta hai mera baap kaun hai?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, tere baap ko kyun la rahe iske beech mein? Let's talk like adults. Because right now my only self-defense is my mind, you know, I can't fight. So if I ever get into a confrontation, I have learned 2 techniques. One is smile, because when someone's angry and you're constantly smiling back at them, they don't know what to do with it, confuses them. And just keep talking to them. Don't just keep talking and then they don't know what to do. And keep complimenting. These are 3 things I do. So I compliment people who I'm having an argument with, or if it's who I'm getting into a fight with. Smile. And then talk my way out of it. But I have been considering, you know, along with the training that I'm already doing, I'm considering like getting into some other, like trying out some martial art, like either like Krav Maga or Aikido, because comedy has become a very dangerous profession in India right now. You never know when it will come in handy. So let's see. Cool.
But have you ever got into a fight?
Because of comedy, no. The thing is, the good thing is whenever I'm on stage, there's always that slight sense of intimidation that people have, because okay, he's on a stage, there's a light and he has a mic, so then people are not as courageous to just get on stage and punch somebody. At the most, I've had somebody walk out of my show once because he didn't like my jokes. They're too within the first 2 minutes, and he's like, "This is too this is too offensive, I'm leaving. And then he's with his wife and he gets up to leave and he's looking at his wife and his wife just goes, no, you go, I'll see you at home after. I want to watch this. एक तो घर पे आके तेरा ही बात सुनना पड़ेगा, तो please just go. So it was very funny. The husband left and the wife stayed back. But there was an incident once in this happened to Jim Jeffries, the comedian. He's an Aussie comedian. That time he was doing a gig at the Comedy Store in Manchester, where he's a very offensive comedian. So one of the audience members got up on stage and punched him straight here in the temple. And there's a video of this on YouTube. He got punched, got knocked out. And he didn't get knocked out, he got a pretty bad hit. He was taken backstage. Then a couple of other audience members, restrained that other guy. And then he came back. He did 2 more jokes and he left. But that's how he became famous, actually. So you never know. Like, maybe my whole problem is, I'm just writing too many jokes and I'm not getting punched enough. Yeah.
But how do you know the balance? Like,
he got punched in a room full of his fans. Like that guy, I don't know how he...
Yeah. Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries. Okay.
The same guy. I mean, it's a very rare thing. Comedy is not a violent art form in any way, but you never know. You're walking on the street. Hey, tune BJP ke bare mein kya bola? I'll be like, listen, I'm very calm right now because if needed, I can kill you with a 1-inch punch or one. So let's see what happens there. Yeah, Monica, you want to tell us what you're doing with your fitness career?
Yeah.
Fitness career.
Okay, so
personal details podcast के बाद बता देना WhatsApp.
So right now, a personal trainer, virtual trainer, and nutritionist. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I was just waiting to graduate so I could actually do this full time. I graduated.
So this was literally your first gig after getting out of college, right?
Yeah, like I'd already started doing like being a personal trainer and online coaching, all of that, while doing college. In fact, I chose my subject based on what I could, like how much of it I could manage. For example, like I had to choose between economics and English. And I knew that if I chose economics, if I chose economics, I'd have to give more time to it. And I didn't want to, so I picked English. And then I did my fitness courses alongside that. And then when graduation happened, I was like, yes, I can do this full time. And that's what's going on right now.
That's very cool, man. Because back in the day, and I've reached that age of my life where I'm like, hamare zamane mein. Yeah, I'm just slightly older than you guys. I'm not that old. So, but I remember back in the day, going to the gym was something people did if they wanted to look like John Abraham.
Yeah.
That's just it. There was no other reason why anybody went to the gym. And today, fitness has become a lifestyle. So there's been a tremendous change. And Misty, you're also doing a lot of stuff in this space where you're in the UK right now, and you're studying something specific to the field. Tell us about what you're doing.
So I, like everyone here, I was also a personal trainer for 3 years. I did I did BMS because I wanted to get into sports management. And then kind of along the way, I figured out that I don't want to be on the management side as much as I want to be on the training side with athletes. So I work with a lot of like young athletes with rehab training. And again, I came from a background where I was overweight growing up as a child. So when I first got into the field, it was all about aesthetics. And then after a point, honestly, that just gets boring. It's going to constantly fluctuate. You don't want to be living that restrictive lifestyle all the time. And then my focus kind of shifted to performance. And that's when I wanted to actually train people for performance and bring that ideology and philosophy. So that's why I'm currently doing my Master's of Science in Sport and Exercise Nutrition. I just submitted my dissertation yesterday. So I'm almost done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, please tell us. I read that on your Insta story. Tell us the topic of your dissertation. I read it and I'm like, wow.
So it's basically on collagen, which is it is a form of protein found, and it's usually, for osteoarthritis and dermatological applications. So like for skin healing. But of late, there's been a lot of research in, for performance, because I think you're constantly looking for like the next edge, that golden supplement that will, hand everything to you on a platter. But I think we're still very far away from that. So this is basically me assessing different studies on what have been already done and kind of compiling the literature available and handing it all to everyone in one document, being like, this is what it can be useful for. So many studies have shown that there is strong evidence for it in
Yeah.
as a recovery aid, but not so much for body composition changes, things like that. Actually,
Cool.
I was supposed to do a research project by myself, and I was going to do it on beetroot juice or dietary nitrates and how that affects performance. But because of COVID, we couldn't actually do a research project, so that's why it got last minute changed to a review.
Okay.
So, but it's been fun. It's I feel like opened up a lot of like opened up my mind to different things, and it's all very like there's so much honestly junk on the internet now. Everyone can find the new best diet, new best supplement online, but there's so much junk. It's just taught you how to actually look at facts and not everything. Yeah.
I think what I find really interesting about all this is, and I was reading up on this also, I think as of 2017, the fitness industry in India was worth about $1.1 billion.
Yeah.
So now, not only has the trend really picked up, but it's also become a viable career option for a lot of young people today. And we have a lot of fans also always writing into us and saying, I am so confused. I've just answered my 12th standard. I've just graduated and I don't know what to do and stuff. And now this is a viable space where you guys have really carved out really nice careers for yourself, So I think that is really cool. So you guys are obviously in this for the long haul.
Honestly, Danny, like the first 2 years easily, I'm like a year and a half, I barely made any money. So if you have, that's what I tell people when they message, can we get into it as a career? I'm like, honestly, until you don't have a name as such, and you can, because there are people who are willing to do PT sessions for as less as 300 rupees an hour. So how do you set yourself, or free right now? There are like I've seen so many fitness influencers. I don't know if anyone has seen this, but there's this Chloe Ting challenge, and I've seen her video, and I'm like, bro, your form is completely off, and if beginners are following this, and it's out there for free. It has like over 200 million views. I know I sound a little bit bitter, but I feel like
but this is true. We have this in comedy as well, in every industry where there are people practicing it as a discipline. There are influencers on the other side with very little knowledge or very little skill coming up, and then they are racking up more views. They are racking up, and we're like, oh, but like I'll tell you what happened in America. It's a really cool thing, and I'm glad it played out the way it did, because in America also a lot of these YouTubers became really famous really fast because they were funny in front of a camera. When it's scripted, editing, they're really funny. And then a really big comedy store in LA booked these guys for a gig. And their fans came. These guys can sell tickets because they have a following, but they are not live performers. They are not stand-up comics.
Wow.
So they crashed and burned so hard. And the owner of the comedy club was like, "What happened to these guys?" And the other comedians, the same sentiment that Misty had, like, bro, they are not comedians, right? They're just YouTubers. So yes, there is a lot of false prophets, so to say, within both our industries, but in terms of go on.
Like online, you will not know. You can't say, right? I mean, it's not live, so anyone can just go online and just give you something, marketed well.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like even just coming back to the same topic of like fitness influencers, they're often marketing all these crappy detox teas, weight loss pills.
Exactly.
Different things like that, which are like actually you could be harming someone, so there's no liability in that sense towards what you're selling. And so I think I feel like in general, coming back to it as a career, I feel it's very important to also, like don't rush into it. Finish your education, finish your graduation, and then kind of get into it, so you have a strong backup plan. You can, like, at least when I started out doing it, I was barely earning like 10,000 rupees a month as a stipend. Like my travel fees gone in a month. So I feel like then after that, when the money comes in and you build a name for yourself. But I feel like that's honestly in any service industry.
I mean, even with comedy, it takes a long time, especially today. If you decide you want to be a comedian boss, it's going to be a really long time before you see any money. So but that kind of is the golden rule, especially in a field that's such as ours, where you have to really put in the hours, you have to put in the years. so to say. Like, so all three of you get a lot of people messaging you asking how they can do this as a career.
Yeah, I get asked.
Definitely.
Yeah, I get sometimes, like not too many.
I feel like after I've come over here to do my master's, because it's an MSc program, and I did a management program for my graduation, right? So they're completely different fields. So about how I got around to it, what was the application process, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So it's very,
But it
very
took me 3
interesting.
years to get here, honestly. Like it was 3 years of building my resume, getting work experience, my courses, modules in. So I was looking at this like almost as soon as I graduated. It was just a matter of then getting over here, you know.
Yeah. And Dhruv, you mentioned this earlier when we were discussing this as well, that the fitness industry globally is unregulated. You know, this literally anybody can do whatever they want within the space. So if someone, if the people in watching this podcast right now are considering a career in fitness, and this is to all three of you, what is the best path forward? Let's say I am a guy who's just finished graduation. I'm done with my graduation, and now I'm very keen on picking up a career in the fitness industry. How do I go about doing it? What are some of the ways I could do it?
So I think to start off with, someone should find a good an institute, like a recognized institute which is all over the world recognized, and first get yourself certified, study, put in that hard work to actually get that knowledge. Don't just just to pass, you want to give an exam.
Yeah.
Once that comes in, then it takes at least years of experience to actually understand and apply the things that you've learned. Because there are a lot of things that we learn. It's like a base medical exam that we give.
Okay.
So you have to know every muscle, how they correspond with each other, the anatomy, the physiology, the biomechanics, how the body moves. So it's not just okay, ye karo, you stand like this, do the squat like this, but you have to understand if the person has a posterior pelvic tilt, or if he has any postural things, that disorders. You have to first correct that. There's a process of doing things which a lot of people don't do, but this comes only with education. So once you're educated properly, you apply, get that experience for a year, and once you just build your name, and that's how it goes.
So getting a relevant degree is essential then. So it's not like you just join a gym as an apprentice of sorts, learn under somebody, and then say, I'm also a personal trainer.
I feel it needs to go hand in hand.
It needs to go hand in hand.
You need to get your base strong. Once you have the basics ready, once you know, like he said, your anatomy, kinesiology, and all of that, then that comes with the certification, and then you can build on it by learning from people around.
Exactly, because I think this. Sorry, go on.
I was really lucky because while I was doing my ACSM certification, I was also interning at the HEAL Institute, which is a physiotherapy clinic, and they also do strength and conditioning for athletes. So that's kind of where I was interning. So I was literally like, on my breaks and stuff like that, or when I didn't have to intern. And like interning, I mean, like for the first 3 to 4 months, I was not allowed near the clients. I was just sitting, standing, cleaning up after the gym or things like that. But you need to understand that's a lot of dirty work as well. It's not just, sitting and posing the six pack. It's like you're on your feet the whole day. I mean, I think all three of us can agree. If you ever have an injury or, not in the mood of it, and to sit and mentally pump someone up, it can be physically and mentally draining.
Yeah, very important.
Sessions where I've been like completely knackered,
Yeah.
Because you have to keep yourself motivated as well, like every day. So that the client gets motivated, and you're running from one client to another, like having a rush meal in between.
Yeah.
So things can get a little hectic in the day.
And at the end of the day, as a trainer, the number, sorry.
No, continue.
Such polite guess. Like this would, guys, you would never see this on Republic TV, okay? You would never hear the word sorry on Republic TV. Carry on.
But that's what sells, Daniel.
That is true. I think if we just start talking over each other, saying "Mera muscle, tere muscle se bada hai," I'll get more views.
Exactly.
Sorry,
no, but it's like as a personal trainer, the number of hours you're putting in a day is the amount of money you're getting in a certain way, right? Like if you're working 12 hours a day, you're going to get 12 hours of money per session that you conduct or group class that you take. If you're working 5, but at the end of the day, you also reach a physical limit, you know, like for me, when I was in Bombay, it was like start classes at 5:45, come home by 8, 9 p.m., you know. And luckily I was working in a gym, so I can like squeeze my own training in between. But it is not as glamorous as you see on Instagram all the time. There's a lot of hard work that everyone puts in it.
Yeah. Maybe because I'm starting out, I see it a little differently as of now. Like I don't feel drained out by this. Like, you know, like you said about the career option, like it's super important to get certified, to train under different people, to train by yourself and understand like your own body. But what, you know, when you're a trainer, you also have to understand that you're meeting the client at their workout hour. And that is, you know, a time period that is very special to them. You know, that is probably a time for them when they get out. It's a very nice time for them. So you also have to be a very pleasant, fun personality so that you can do justice to that expectation they have. Like for me, like it is important that my trainer has knowledge and all of that. But what's more important for me is that in that 1 hour, I have a great time. So as a trainer, I feel it's your responsibility to make sure that, you know, at the end of the session, your client has worked out as per plan, but also leaves feeling like very satisfied and happy.
People skills, basically.
Yeah, people skills. That's very important. Because no matter how tired you are, how long of a day you've had, that 1 hour is not about you, it's about them. And you have to make them feel like that as well.
And I also think that your industry is one where you really need to look the part.
Yeah.
So while you are getting the, you know, certification and you're learning all these things, you need to apply that really well. I think for me, there are some people, like, and I told Dhruv also before, if you were in Bombay, you'd be my trainer, you know, because there's some people where you look at them, especially people in fitness, like, yeah, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
So not only are you inspiring them just by your knowledge, but they just need to look at you and go, man, I want to do this. So you are the product itself. Like you have.
But I think that in India, I don't know, at least in Pune, like there's not one client who's asked me what certification I've done.
I was just coming to that. Do clients?
They just probably look at me or probably see the things I've done on Instagram, and they want to train with me. And then it's just a rapport and, you know, how you make them feel every day.
Yeah, and I think also
that's the sad part. I think.
And I think that's because of where the fitness industry is right now. I mean, 10 years back, nobody was doing this. Nobody was talking about fitness and wellness as much as they are today. So I think now, like you said, I didn't know prior to knowing you guys that you could get certified, and there were all these things that you guys had to do before you got to where you are. I just thought, you know, you start working at a gym and then you get your muscles and then you train people. So I think that awareness aspect, and I think more, because I remember when I joined my gym and I was discussing what kind of workout I was going to be doing and my diet and stuff like that. And I was not necessarily eating correctly, because in India also, where we ever discussed nutrition growing up, it was about eat till your stomachs are full. When your stomach is full, that means you have eaten well, and it was always about eating as much as you possibly could. And now we're counting calories and we're looking at the composition of our meals. So and I remember the person at the gym told me, once you start seeing results, you will automatically be so watchful of what you put into your body. And that is so true. The minute you start thinking, you're like, no, okay, now I'm not going to do. I've stopped having, dude, I used to have Coke with every meal.
Oh, wow.
Like every time I would have a meal would be accompanied by a can of Coke, and I've stopped Coke completely, you know. Don't tell anybody, but now with my meals, just to, you know, you want to feel like you're having something, I have lassi.
I think lassi is great.
Yeah, it's
still
good.
better than Coke,
It's still better than Coke, but it's just...
And it's actually good digestive as well.
Exactly. So I think what will happen eventually is that people will understand that not all fitness trainers are alike. Not everybody who works at the gym has the same level of expertise and knowledge. And that's when I think if we will see a point where people go like, okay, and when they're hiring you for your services, they'll go, okay, what's your background? You know, what certification do you have? I think that could happen.
Like I have been through that because I work with like young tennis players and swimmers a lot, you know, like because it was in Khar, the gym. So all the Khar gym swimmers, Otters Club swimmers, tennis players, they all would come for training. And the kids were fine, but the parents, because obviously it's an investment for the parents, right? If they're putting in, like I used to get grilled sometimes by the parents. Like, what is the plan? Okay, I want the next 3-month plan. Okay, do you think I should make him eat a nutritionist? Who do you offer nutritional services? And I'm like, I don't right now, but there's so and so you can go to or whatever. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, maybe because I'm coming more from a sport background, I feel like because things have changed. I used to play like tennis and I used to swim and things like that when I was young, but I don't think my parents gave two damns about what I was eating, what my training was. But these kids are literally like, say if it was a swimming in the morning, school, literally from school, come train with me, then maybe tuitions or a second session of of swimming, and then back home. And I'm like,
Okay.
and like literally the parents, sometimes we had a rule eventually that no parents were allowed in the gym because they would literally be like sitting inside and
Micromanaging everything.
everything. And we're like, and I feel like there is that section, where because they're putting in money, and I completely understand they want to, know what we're doing with their children. And I feel so from there, it made a difference to, what I had studied and what I was planning to do further and things like that.
Even
So
when
in terms, sorry, we are turning into milder now. Go on.
Monica, go ahead.
Yeah.
Get onto a nutrition plan. That's when the grilling starts, because now they'll, ask you very technical questions. And I'm an advocate of the ketogenic diet. So, explaining that to a doctor, like that's when everything that you've learned comes into play, actually explaining them. And nowadays I do that honestly with all my clients, like the first time I'm telling them about the plan that I'm putting them on, like it's a 45-minute talk explaining them the whole thing, because when you get onto a plan, see, honestly, to lose weight, you just need to be in a calorie deficit. But still, why are so many people fat? Why is losing weight such a challenge? Because there are a lot of psychological barriers that come into the picture.
And physiological. And physiological. So it's not as simple as, calories in, calories out, that it's not a mathematical equation. Tomorrow, if you take all 4 of us together, all of us in a 500 calorie deficit, burning the same amount of energy, all our bodies are going to look different, just because, your body adjusts in a way. Like, say if I've suddenly dropped a lot of weight, my metabolic rate will also drop down along with it, because your body is constantly trying to, in a survival mode, where if it suddenly feels like you're starving or not getting enough food, if it burnt, say 5 calories, I'm just giving a very random example, 5 calories to pick up a glass of water, it'll now take only 3 or 2 calories. It's now, understood that it's not as simple as, but when you're explaining it to the general population, you always, obviously, that's what you go with.
Yeah. See,
honestly, so a lot of times people are not in a calorie deficit also. They think they are in a calorie deficit, but they're not. So it
overestimating how much you burn.
Also, guys, just for the purpose of people watching, I'm not sure how many of them know what a calorie deficit is. Does one of you just want to like quickly tell them? Because it's a very important aspect of.
So basically, if you require 2,000 calories a day, depending on your BMR and your daily activities in the day, your physical activities included. If you require 2,000 calories, basically you have to cut down a certain amount of calories. So say I cut down 300 calories and I'm on 1,700 calories. So that is a deficit that you've created.
And that deficit helps you lose weight.
Exactly. Over time. So around 3,500 calories when you burn one you're on a deficit of 3,500 calories, you burn 1 pound of fat.
Okay.
Basically, your body at rest burns certain number of calories just to sustain itself. Like your digestive system, your respiratory system, all of that, just to keep you alive, burn calories. Now,
and obviously, if you eat more calories than you need, then it gets converted to fat.
What you're burning, you'll be gaining weight, and the minute you start eating lesser than what you're burning, your body will tap into your fat stores, and that deficit will start the fat burning process.
It's so funny when you said fat stores. Part of my brain went, we know where your fat stores are, Dan. One here, one here. This is my fat supermarket. Geez. But I think I like what I'm seeing here in terms of the career trajectory for those of you, for people who want to get into fitness as a career. We'll come to the other side of the clients as well. So you get done with college, you get certified. While with your certification, you also do an internship of sorts with some institution,
Yeah.
in a similar field. Then you do put in the hours, work on your own body, and then so you could work with a gym as a trainer, and you could then also work as a freelancer where you build your own clientele and you train them on location and stuff like that. And then you could also get into sports and stuff. And then eventually, do you guys see yourselves opening your own institutes at some point, your own fitness studio or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, at least for me, I know for a while I want to work with an athletic population, hopefully, come back, work with more elite Indian athletes. And that's kind of where I'm headed. So I don't technically need a studio or a center that, I work with them wherever they are, kind of.
I think once your name is well made in a particular area, getting a studio makes sense, because then everyone can just come to one place.
They know where to find you.
And you can make a community. So it's just better. That's what I feel. Yeah. But that takes time.
Yeah. And I think it's
investment. It's a big investment.
Big investment, yeah.
We've seen right now with like gyms closing for 3-4 months, the amount of gyms that have closed down in Bombay. And it's so sad because you know how much effort's gone in, how much, I mean, I see people selling equipment online right now, and it like breaks your heart, because you're like, these people personally, you followed them, things like that.
Yeah. Which actually brings me to the next part of the discussion. Now that COVID has hit, do you find that more people are now getting interested in fitness because they understand the importance of building up immunity and just being fit overall? Is there an increase in people wanting to get fit?
100%. Like if you go to Carter Road in the evening or in the morning, you've never seen people on the street running like that. There are so many people now. I've never seen like.
I think they're also running from other people because they think they might get COVID. Bhag. So
yeah, it's that outing in a day that you get. I feel like now there's no excuse of, I have to go to work the whole day, this, that. So,
that also.
Yeah. And staying at home, I think we've kind of understood also like what is important in life, and like taking care of health, like both physical and mental, is very, very important. So because we got a little break from work and we had that, life became a little more slow paced, we had time to think about what's important. And I think we are realizing that health is super important, because when that goes wrong, like a lot, like
and that's kind of slightly bittersweet in a way, because you finally have so many more people realizing how important it is to be fit, but at the same time the gyms are shut for a while. So how has the fitness industry adapted to this change?
So I think online, everyone's just gone online.
The spike in the virtual training.
Even gyms have gone online.
So
I feel like in the long run, people are going to come back to the gym. I don't
will, definitely.
I don't see that, virtual training or online apps, they're definitely going to be useful. But in the long run, I feel like, that sense of community, like I've started going back to the gym over here and just having that routine, that the class is at 6 o'clock or whatever. It's just that sets the tone for the rest of your day,
Exactly,
when you don't have anything else to do right now.
I mean, we are social beings. I mean, we want to go to the gym. We want to interact with people. We want to meet new people. That's another aspect.
That'll happen, but a lot of virtual training will stay as well. And what will happen is that I think technology will develop in a way that virtual training becomes a little more interactive.
I think this is I agree with that, because I see this happening with comedy as well. So because we can't do gigs at clubs, we do a lot of Zoom shows now, and a lot of people on the Zoom shows have asked that once things get back to normal, and we will all go back to gyms, we will all go back to comedy clubs like we used to. Maybe we won't watch as many movies because we all hate Karan Johar right now for some reason, but we will get back to normal. But a lot of fans on shows have also said, can you please keep doing Zoom shows? And I'm like, this is a great idea, because not a lot of people, there are people all over the world who can't watch us because we don't perform in their cities or for other reasons. So I may not do as many Zoom shows as I'm doing now, but once I get back to doing gigs at comedy clubs, I might do the odd Zoom show every now and then. So yeah, I see sense in that trend picking up where some people may still want to have that. So I think a small silver lining through all of this is the fact that a lot of trainers out there can now have this as an add-on package for people who can't travel to the gym.
Can't access you.
Who can't access. But I do agree with what you said, Dhruv. I think and Mishti, the magic is in the gym. That's where the sense of community is. I mean, for me, it was always about, we had a small WhatsApp group where of all the guys who come working out be like, okay, I'm coming for 7 o'clock for the 7 o'clock class, and we would all hang out together. It was like friends hanging out, but lifting weights and at the same time. So it was really cool. So I do agree.
Push each other also.
You do that, You see, like, uska traps mere traps se better kaisa ho sakta hai? Like, I will now, And I as much as I enjoy working out at home, which I've been doing since the lockdown has started, I do want to get back to the gym. So now that people are at home and people are saying, hey, I want to get fit, what can people do to get fit? So virtual classes is one thing, and as we discussed earlier, there's a slight limitation with virtual classes because you're not there present physically. Equipment is not available as much as you would see in a gym. So if someone is watching this and going, hey, I want to start doing workouts at home, what would you suggest they do? Should they buy some equipment? Should they just sign up for a virtual class? What's the best way forward?
I mean, I'd say if you haven't if you haven't worked out in a long time, or you're just starting out, then definitely do one-on-one classes with a trainer, just because your foundation and your basics can then be right, and then take it kind of from there, because honestly, first getting used to your own body weight, correct movement patterns, things like that. I feel like now, because we're at home, we're just sitting a lot more. Everyone's postures have gone for a toss. You're constantly in different permutation combinations, watching Netflix, and so just getting back to basic movement, understanding how your body works, and then investing in equipment as and when you need to.
Also, like easy stuff.
I love you guys. This is the most chattiest panel I've had, which is great, because otherwise you're just waiting for somebody to say something, but you guys want to share so much. I really like that. Whoever wants to go. Yeah, Dhruv, let's have Dhruv go.
Okay. So like how you bought some resistance bands and basic stuff like that.
This, by the
people
way,
which is right next to you.
This is a weapon. I can kill you.
Bicep curls on the side or something.
Yeah, these are really good, by the way, guys. If you're watching, get one of these. You will not regret it. Yeah, sorry.
You can do a full body workout with those.
Small trial as well. How to use those bands.
Yeah, it's very easy. You just like
Danny, 3 trainers are watching you. You're like full pressure on the form.
So yeah,
Dhruv, you were saying,
getting small equipment like this, because sometimes some people cannot handle their body weight.
Yeah.
So getting small things like this can really help them out. But of course, like Mishti said, doing it one-on-one is very important in the beginning, because even if you follow something, you don't know whether you're doing it right. No one's there to correct you.
I agree with that, especially if you're somebody who is not trained ever or has taken a break from training. One-on-one is definitely recommended, because you don't know what you could be doing to hurt yourself. You don't know why certain parts of your body are aching the wrong way. Because so start off with a one-on-one session. Pick up light equipment, like you said, resistance bands, dumbbells.
And like Monica said, she's been seeing a lot of people running on Carter Road and things like that. And I mean, I've been a runner, and I know a lot of people just think that running is something that comes very naturally to you. But again, like what Dhruv said, if you can't handle your own body weight, or if you're extremely overweight or obese, then running and things like that may not even be safe for you initially. You need to build enough muscle strength so that your joints are not taking the load and you're correctly activating your core, your glutes are strong enough. Because otherwise, what's happened right now is exactly, like suddenly so many people are getting into sports, getting into fitness, which is great. But unless you don't do it the right way, you will cause some kind of, maybe overuse, injury, or basically
Yeah.
things like
Yeah, I'd say like if you want to get started and if you're a beginner, just first practice consistency. What happens is the first, the day you decide to start, your motivation level is the highest, and that's the day you buy everything. You buy fitness clothes, you buy your equipment, and then you never end up using it. So I'd say that you first practice consistency. Even if you're starting off with a 20-minute walk, make sure for a week every single day you're doing 20 minutes. Then you're like, okay, cool, I've practiced consistency. Now let me get somebody involved with it. Let me get a trainer. I'll do my working sessions, I'll do my 20-minute walk, and slowly build it up to something a little more intense. But start with consistency, because
small
that's
habit.
get so excited in the beginning and then it just goes down after.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Like small habits,
Yeah.
just to include very small habits in your daily routine makes a lot of difference. Because then you make it a routine and then it just gets normal.
Have willingness from your side, and then you'll see like the opportunities that are there. Like if you really want to work out, you really want to eat right, there's a lot of free information out there. You just have to be willing to do that. People are not willing to give up things. People are too comfortable with the life that they're living, that they don't want to make change. But the minute willingness comes in, you'll see that all the support that you need will find its way to you.
Because I think as far as fitness is concerned, every month is January now, which is the golden month in the fitness industry, where you see the most registrations in terms of memberships, and then slowly people start dropping off. So very valid point that if you have to cultivate that habit of being fit, pick an hour of the day that works for you. For me, it's either 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. That's my sweet spot. So every day without fail, I make sure, for me, actually, my entire day is anchored around when I'm working out. This is what was happening pre-COVID also. So I would schedule meetings, meeting friends, whatever it is. Any work would always be around my workout. So that way I wouldn't compromise on the number of days I put in. So the discipline part of it is very, very accurate. So cool. So, find a good trainer to do a one-on-one session, build a habit, get some.
I feel like think about what you can add initially when you're a beginner, rather than being super restrictive and throwing out all your junk food. And think about what you can add. Like, I give a small silly example, like if you're having a slice of pizza or an entire pizza, have a salad, or add things, add good things into your life, into your diet, before you go on being super restrictive and subtracting, getting into it very negatively initially. That's what I always kind of say for beginners, especially.
So since we're talking about diet also, and a lot of people who practice fitness also say that diet is actually 95% of the whole effort when you combine, not between 90 and 95% of working out is actually your diet, making sure you eat the right things at the right time. So how important is it to consult with the nutritionist when you are working out?
I think that's the first thing that you should do.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't do that. Is this true?
Yeah.
They don't. They just work out.
They think that going to the gym for that 1 hour will really help them out, but it also depends on what your activity is there the whole day. Because the trainer can control just that 1 hour. He can't control the rest of the 23 hours in the day.
Correct.
So that is very important.
But that is one thing that I feel that when somebody comes to me for a diet plan, I kind of know that they can get a diet plan anywhere. Even I know that even they have the common sense to know what is good food, what is bad food, and if they really want it, they can without consulting with a nutritionist, eat healthy and get healthy. But I feel the added benefit of paying somebody and knowing that now you're accountable to them is why I feel like nutrition consultation is successful, not because of the diet plan that I'm giving you, but the fact that I'm taking your money and now you have to follow it, else you wasted your money.
There's more accountability, personal accountability, because I've paid for this consultation.
Yeah. Because honestly speaking, you go up on Google, you're going to get 100 diets that you can follow. And it's not that difficult to get that knowledge right now. But it is important that you feel like you are accountable to someone, so you're able to actually stick through the diet.
Okay. Cool.
I feel like even when it comes to nutrition consulting, again, there's a lot of I don't know how to put this the right way, but there's a lot of everyone is a nutrition expert, a boot camp expert, a wellness consultant. I'm like, where are these terms popping up from? Who is creating, these? So again, it comes to the thing of regulation, like we spoke about earlier. There's a lack of that. So then it becomes, kind of when as a customer, when you're coming in, please do your research depending on, who you're going to, and ask questions about where you did your certification from, or where did you study from, or, ask them question about why are you giving me this. Don't be afraid just because you feel like someone is a expert. Like when we go to a doctor, we don't blindly take anything and everything. We always usually ask questions. If you don't, then please do,
But the best part is nowadays even doctors have become nutritionists.
Yeah.
No, I
Like
feel
my doctor told me this to
subject
eat this.
school on nutrition.
Sorry, Mallika, you want to go again?
I mean, I feel like there should be like a mandatory nutrition subject in school. How
In school, yeah, that's very important.
nutrition, at least basic understanding you should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even with fitness, now back in the day, what did we have? Like one PT class, and that was it.
Yeah.
So cool. So I mean, this kind of covers how one can stay fit during lockdown. And now, once this gets over, Russia already has a vaccine. It's called, Smirnoff. Or no, it's the other vaccine.
Beluga, is it that?
Wait, Smirnoff is not even a Russian brand. Is it a Russian brand? I don't know. Because there will be some smart ass in the comment section going, Smirnoff is not a Russian brand. Is it? I don't know.
I think it's Indian.
Guys, just
Smirnoff
drink
is Indian.
So like you can't afford any other thing on the menu.
Yeah. But like I said,
Sound Russian.
It sounds Russian. Yeah. It has off. It is off now.
Oh.
Yeah.
So things will get back to normal. And now what I've also found that when you are working out and this is the last part of the discussion in the real world, is that there are a lot of options in what kinds of fitness programs you can, engage in. It's not just going to the gym and, lifting weights. There are so many options. There's CrossFit, Zumba, yoga, Pilates, martial arts. So how does one decide what is a good way to go? And can I combine more than one form of, a workout?
I think if someone's just starting out, you want to go ahead?
No, finish too.
If someone's just starting out, I think the main thing is to find what you're really interested in. If you enjoy doing Zumba or you enjoy doing CrossFit, you've seen someone doing it and you just enjoy watching it, start with that. Because once you enjoy it, you will be able to stay more consistent. You'll be able to do it more regularly and religiously.
Okay.
That is the main thing that you have to start off with. And then, of course, you can combine different things depending on your goals. Now, if you're doing yoga, you're not getting the results that you need as per your goals, you will combine it with something else, which will basically help you reach those goals better.
Okay.
But the main thing is just to start with something that you enjoy. I mean, that's what I would say.
I mean, for me, I personally believe, like, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I honestly feel like we're limitless, I mean, I love finding new ways to push myself and test. I mean, to be honest, now I'm at that age where I'm never going to become an elite or professional athlete, anything where I need to focus on one sport. So, I mean, now running has kind of taken a backseat for me because I was running a lot over here on the treadmill, and then I just needed to, kind of back off from it for a bit. And I started bouldering, which is kind of like rock climbing, but without the harness and everything. And it's more like, so it's just a completely different kind of a sport that I was exploring and going along with. And I used to literally like small muscles in my back and everything used to get sore because my upper body strength was never as much as my lower body strength. So then testing and pushing myself in those ways was so much fun. So I keep telling people, like, is it like, we get questions like, is it necessary to run to lose weight? And I'm like, no, there's so many other options that, you can go to work out. And exactly like what Dhruv said, if you're not going to be passionate about it, you're not going to enjoy it, you don't see yourself progressing in that sport, then there are so many other. But again, don't keep jumping from one thing to another. At least give it some time. Let your body get used to the movement, adapt to it. And then if it's not for you, it's not for you,
I'd say like, there are like certain components of fitness and you should kind of address all of it. So, address flexibility. So, post-workout, do your stretching, work on your stamina, work on your strength. You can work on your stamina by, maybe going for a little jog 3 times a week. 3 times a week, you can do like a strength training routine. So, try to incorporate and address all the fitness components. So that would be, say, flexibility, your cardiovascular health, your, muscular skeletal strength, your body composition, which you can monitor by eating better. So, just address all of it so that you're a fit and healthy individual.
Right. So then irrespective of what you do as a workout, as long as you're addressing these goals.
These goals, it's fine. Like you can work on your stamina by doing a Zumba class or by doing kickboxing or by running or by swimming. So, set a goal and then be flexible with your ways to getting there.
I think that's a very important point that she said, because even when we look at, say, marathon runners, or suppose we look at marathon runners and someone says, oh, look at him, he's so fit. I mean, the word fit actually, it comprises of all the components of fitness. So endurance is just one component. So he's just fit in that component of the fitness. His cardiovascular endurance and his muscular endurance. But there is so much more to flexibility. There's so much more to fitness, which actually makes the whole term complete.
And I mean, honestly, that marathoner, to get where he is, he's obviously doing certain amount of strength training behind the scenes, which you're not probably looking at. So a lot of runners come with, hip imbalances or constant overuse injuries because their muscles aren't strong enough to take the load, so their joints bear it then. So it's important to them kind of balance out, like exactly, what you all said. And the marathoner is so fit and so maybe the best at what he's doing because he's also doing this behind the scenes. It's not one or the other.
Yeah. So I think to sum this up, I think it's a combination. Fitness is a combination of many things. Everybody's fitness goals are different. So you have to not follow a herd, consult with a professional who knows what they're talking about, who's certified, understand your body type, understand where you are right now, understand where you want to go, and then, build a custom plan accordingly. There's no one size fits all. It's a different shoe on every foot. And like I said, just because somebody looks fit, as you guys said, just because somebody looks fit doesn't necessarily mean they are. And that was a joke I actually had, because it's been like 2 years for me right now in my fitness journey. So I had this joke where I talk about, I look fit. And here's how fit I am, that if we're out on a date and I'm standing next to you, nobody will mess with you. But if somebody decides to mess with you and let's say they steal your bag and run away, we'll have to get you a new bag. So it's kind of tough crowd. Anyway, so on that note, you already laugh, man. I was like,
he was waiting. He was like waiting to get everything.
I was just like, it's because my cardiovascular endurance is not as strong.
See, now that's how you should have told us. Then we would have got the joke.
That was the punchline, no? That if somebody runs with your bag, I'm not going to run after him. I'll just get you a new bag. It's okay. I'm not going to say anything because someone of you can kill me with a 1-inch death punch. But cool, man. That kind of wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys had fun. In case people watching this want to get in touch with you, I already have your Instagram details on the screen. So if you want to reach out for, why are you pointing to your bed, Molly?
It's on my pillow.
It's on your pillow.
Handle. Yeah.
Oh, you have your Instagram handle on your.
I didn't have a date. I was just making my
Dude,
bed.
that is next level branding. Dude, I should just paint mine on the wall over here.
Yeah, exactly. Subscribe, put a little play button or whatever behind you.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. So those of you who want to, get into fitness, you guys want to do your one-on-one sessions. I think all of you are available in different at different levels of expertise. So please get in touch. Instagram handles are on your screen. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to all 4 of our Instagram accounts. and keep watching the space for more updates. I'll be back with a new episode next Sunday. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much once again, guys, for joining me.
Thanks for
This is
having us.
Daniel Fernandez
Great to
signing
have
out.
Thank you.
Goodbye.